What if the biggest question in human history can never truly be answered? Not because there's no evidence, but because faith and proof might be two completely different things. For thousands of years, people have searched for proof of God. Philosophers debated it. Scientists challenged it. Believers defended it. Skeptics rejected it. But here's the deeper question. If God could be scientifically proven beyond doubt, would faith even exist anymore? Welcome back to Sacred Questions, the channel where we explore the deepest and most difficult questions about God, faith, Christianity, doubt, and truth. Today's question is one that believers and skeptics have wrestled with for centuries. Can faith be proven? It's a question that sits at the center of religion itself, because many people say, if God is real, prove it. And honestly, that's not an unreasonable question. We ask for proof in almost every area of life. Proof in science, proof in history, proof in courtrooms, proof before trust. So why should faith be different? But as we'll discover in this video, the conversation becomes far more complicated when we ask what proof actually means. Is faith blind belief? Is there evidence for God? Can spiritual truth be measured scientifically? And why do intelligent people come to completely different conclusions about the same evidence? Let's explore. Before asking whether faith can be proven, we first need to understand what faith actually is. Many critics define faith as believing without evidence, but that's not really how most Christians understand it. Biblically, faith is often described as trust. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Notice what it does not say. It does not say faith is pretending. It does not say faith ignores reason. It does not say faith rejects evidence. Instead, faith involves trust in something not fully visible. And honestly, human life already works this way. You trust people before fully knowing them. You trust love without being able to measure it scientifically. You trust that tomorrow will come. You trust meaning, morality, and consciousness. Things science can describe, but struggles to fully explain. Even science itself depends on certain assumptions, that the universe is orderly, that logic is reliable, that our minds can understand reality. In other words, every worldview begins somewhere with trust. The real debate is not whether humans have faith. The debate is what we place our faith in. Now, to be fair, many Christians do argue that there is evidence for God. And throughout history, thinkers have tried to provide rational arguments for faith. One famous argument is the cosmological argument. It asks, why does anything exist at all? Everything we see appears to have a cause. So what caused the universe itself? Some argue the universe points toward a timeless, intelligent creator. Others point to the fine-tuning of the universe. The laws of physics appear incredibly precise. If certain constants were even slightly different, life may never have existed. To some believers, this looks less like an accident and more like design. Then there's the moral argument. Why do humans across cultures possess a sense of right and wrong? If morality is only a product of evolution or survival, why do we feel certain actions are objectively evil? Why does injustice disturb us so deeply? Some Christians argue that moral law suggests a moral lawgiver. And of course, there's the historical argument surrounding Jesus Christ. Even many non-Christian historians agree Jesus existed, that he was crucified, and that his followers genuinely believed he rose from the dead. For believers, the resurrection becomes central evidence for Christianity. But here's the important part. None of these arguments force belief. They persuade some people while leaving others unconvinced, and that reveals something fascinating. The issue may not simply be evidence, it may also involve interpretation. This is where the conversation becomes deeply human, because history shows that people can witness the same event and still reach different conclusions. Even in the Bible, people saw miracles and still doubted. According to Scripture, the Israelites witnessed the Red Sea part, yet later lost faith. Some people saw Jesus perform miracles and still rejected him. Why? Because evidence alone rarely changes the human heart. Think about modern life. People disagree over politics despite seeing the same facts. Jurors interpret the same courtroom evidence differently. Scientists debate theories using the same data. Humans are not purely logical creatures. We are emotional, personal, biased, fearful, hopeful. And perhaps faith exists in that mysterious space where evidence and trust meet. Not certainty, not blindness, but choice. In fact, if God revealed himself with undeniable proof every second of every day, would humans freely love him, or would belief become unavoidable? Some theologians argue that God leaves enough evidence for those willing to seek him, but enough ambiguity for those who wish to reject him. And honestly, that idea troubles some people, because many sincere doubters are genuinely searching. Not everyone who questions faith is rebellious. Some are wounded. Some are intellectual. Some desperately want to believe, but struggle to. And Christianity has long wrestled with that reality. Here's something rarely talked about openly. Many believers struggle with doubt. Even deeply religious people sometimes wonder, what if I'm wrong? What if none of this is true? Why doesn't God make himself clearer? And the Bible itself contains those questions. There are prayers filled with confusion, anger, fear, silence. One of the most shocking moments comes when Jesus himself cries, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Doubt is not always the opposite of faith. Sometimes doubt is part of faith, because faith is not the absence of questions. It's continuing the search despite the questions, and maybe that's why the subject of proof becomes so complicated. Because people often want mathematical certainty for something deeply personal and spiritual. But love cannot be scientifically proven. Beauty cannot be fully measured. Purpose cannot be placed inside a laboratory. Yet few people deny those things exist. The biggest realities in human life are often experienced more than proven. So, can faith be proven? Maybe partially. There are philosophical arguments, historical claims, personal experiences, moments people believe point toward God. But absolute proof? The kind that removes all doubt forever? That may not exist. And perhaps faith was never designed to eliminate uncertainty completely. Perhaps faith is the decision to trust despite incomplete understanding. Not irrational trust, but relational trust. The same kind of trust humans use every single day. Still, the question remains deeply personal, because at some point every person must decide what explains reality best. Why does anything exist? Why do humans long for meaning? Why do we search for transcendence? Why does the idea of God continue to survive across nearly every civilization in history? Maybe faith cannot be forced. Maybe it cannot be mathematically solved. But maybe the search itself reveals something profound about being human. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think faith can be proven? Do you believe evidence for God exists? Or do you think faith begins where proof ends? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring difficult spiritual questions without fear, subscribe to Sacred Questions. Join us for the next conversation, because sometimes the most important questions are the ones that refuse to leave us alone.